That's going. That's going. So get in there. Got my phones. My headphones. Go back. This is a fun one. It features many noises and sounds. I will be going track by track. I'm going to talk about all this stuff in descending order. There's no particular method to the order of tracks here, but let's get into the vocals. I do all my vocals the same way. If you watched any of these videos, you've heard me rehash kind of the same stuff. I can't believe what I process my vocals in this order. I record them, then I make the vocal comp, then I pitch correct, and then I EQ, compress, then render it, send it to Ableton to de-ess it, then shove it back in FL Studio, then put effects on it. So these vocals have been through all of that. I can't believe what I'm about to say. I never thought that I would feel this way. That's kind of just become my vocal sound. Nothing crazy. It's time to rockin' some of that short slap back delay type action, and then that delay is being stereoized and then EQ'd like this. Can't really justify any of those decisions. I just decided it sounded good to do those things. Yeah, super short delay. We're talking about time : 0.42, that kind of delay. Real spicy. I'm not a lost cause. Let me throw the background vocals back in. Believe what I'm about to say. So at the intro here, I'm layering my lead vocals. I think it's 3 takes, actually. Let me listen. 3 takes, including the lead vocals. I can't believe what I'm about to say. There's the lead vocals are probably what I decided was the best take of this intro. And then I used the next best 2 to pan hard right and hard left, which if I delete one, you'll hear I'm talking about. Yeah, that one's panned right. This other one's panned left, so together they're kind of shoved off to the side there. Yeah, well, there's the panning happening. And then they go through some vicious EQ. So they're just kind of mid-high midi, and then they get flanged. Not flanged, but stereoized, which is just another form of delay, really. Whenever I say that, stereo type effects that make things wider, or like chorus. Almost all effects really boil down to just delay being used in different ways. But that's a video. But what other secrets do my vocals hold? I haven't looked at this for a while. We're kind of in this together. But despite all your flaws, I made some fake harmonies because I was done recording, but I decided I wanted more harmonies. So I duplicated the lead vocals and pitch corrected them. It's not pitch correction, I just tuned them to a pleasant interval. Yeah, there's the auto-tune plugin I used, although it is disabled right now because I already rendered it, so it would use less CPU. It's being sent to the same channel that my slide guitar is in this track. It was probably an accident, actually, but I decided it sounded cool. This is what I'm doing, the fucking slide guitar, which is preposterous. Seriously, I'm not a professional and I would not advise. I don't know why it looks like this. I EQ'd it that way for the slide guitar. There's probably some resonant frequency here that I was trying to cut out. So the fact that me running vocals through it is even remotely acceptable sounding is a miracle. Yeah, I like to do fake harmonies. Not only do they fit my sound, I think, like I can get away with it with the type of music I do. When they're, sitting under the lead vocals, you cannot easily tell. But despite all your flaws, I take that back. But who cares? I still miss you like I knew that I would, but that doesn't mean I want you back at all. Harmonies drop out at the end of this phrase for the sake of drama. I don't know what I mean when I say that.
You like I knew that I would, but that doesn't mean I want you back at all.
Yeah, it's like at the end of that phrase, I pull out the harmony to make it like more intimate. Oh yeah, there's my telephone vocals thing for this pre-chorus here.
Slate clean. Grieve at your own pace.
This is a preset that I made for myself for podcasts that I do. I do it off and on, but we're not here to talk about that. It's 3 phases of EQ to get this telephone effect. And again, this is me just stabbing blindly at it. So this is just how I achieved that sound. First, it gets bit crushed, as a voice would over the phone. It gets kind of, reduced in quality.
Grieve at your own pace.
It's fun, not quite what I'm going for. Chop off the top and bottom of the frequency spectrum and you got this.
Grieve at your own pace.
Fun, but not quite what I'm looking for. So I grab those frequencies 5K and I throw them up like this.
Grieve at your own pace.
Almost there. For some reason I decided I wanted to cut the 2K because it was bothering me. The 2K range accounts for the S noises, which after being bit crushed become really, really pronounced and aggressive if you listen to this.
Don't spend too much time alone.
Yeah, those like T's and S's are a little too wild for me, so that's what this EQ is for. It's to kind of attenuate those syllables.
Don't spend too much time alone.
Just a tad.
Like you would.
This limiter here is,
like you would.
it's my makeshift de-esser, but just for the like she noises. Yeah, I'm using a peak controller that is set to activate only when stuff in this range
Don't spend too much time.
hits a certain volume, gets loud enough
Don't spend too.
by, breaking through this noise gate I have set up. It triggers this peak controller, which is set to control the gain on this limiter
Don't spend too much time
in an
alone.
inverse fashion.
Like you would, I know you'll do just great. Venturing.
That's how you can do it in FL Studio. Or you could just go through by hand and bring the volume down for all those noises. Or you could use a plugin that does this all automatically. But working entirely with native FL stuff, this is one way to, get your S's or your sh noises in this case under control. If you're trying to wrangle a specific band of frequencies, you can do a lot with the peak controller. Let's move on.
Take me at my word. I didn't write.
Listen to those harmonies again by themselves.
Take me at my word. I didn't write this song.
Yeah, so one of those is just a double. It's just the same pitch as the, same melody as the lead vocals, but it's just adding some more meat to it. And then one of these is a fake auto-tuned harmony,
I didn't write this to make you hurt.
which to me creates a very pleasing vocal sandwich.
Take me at my word. I didn't write this to make you hurt.
You're hearing some blips and stutters. That is because my buffer size is not high enough, but like something in this project that I cannot figure out is like behaving badly and eating up all my CPU or making this glitch out, and I can't fix it, so we're just gonna have to live with those underruns, those buffer issues. Anyway, I'm gonna conclude talking about vocals there, because that covers the gist of it, at least as far as I'm concerned. Let's talk about the drums. I like the drums in the song. I love their spunky attitude. I'm using a unusual combination of very electronic dance sounding samples, like this kick in particular is, very trancey. It's like a trance kick if you listen to trance music. I'm using this vinyl snare sample. I'm using like realistic hat sounds with not realistic sounding drum samples. And then this is a maraca sample that I'm just using very sparingly here. Just to give it some attitude, some pick me up. Yeah, there's my fun little hat trill there. I'm gonna turn the bass on just to give it some context. I draw all my drums from scratch, and doing that looks like this oftentimes, which is just ridiculous. I'd like to know if other people do it this way. That is a sufficiently realistic hi-hat rise that I'm doing. Again, this is like this jazz kit thing. It is a preset with this plugin called FPC. It's like a drum rack, and honestly, some of these preset kits, just do a little work on them and add some reverb, really do the trick. And they have multiple samples based off of the amplitude of the trigger. So like if I'm configuring it to get louder, it'll use the louder sample, right? They like recorded someone hitting an open hi-hat 4 times. The quiet first time they hit it is triggered when the volume is low, this boy right here, and then it gets louder when the amplitude goes up. So I don't know, it's just convincing enough.
I'll make myself a machine to scrounge up.
I feel like the song doesn't take itself too seriously, and the instrumental doesn't either. It's a very happy-go-lucky vibe to it. Throwing some snaps in there. As you can see, if you're looking at the names of my little blocks here, I ran through multiple iterations of drums. This is new, beat, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, number 2, which was the winner. I'm pleased. Drums pick up a little bit more here, more hat stuff. I tend to default to playing with hats. I'm trying to add energy. Oh yeah, it's my boy. Yeah, it's my boy. I just love this one bar where I'm using like the toms to do this fucking thing with the drums. It's a bunch of 8 notes for a fun moment. Getting in my grill. Here we go. Fuck, dude. Let me look real quick at what I'm doing to these drums, mix and effect wise. I like to distort my drums slightly at the top level altogether. I compress them as a unit, and then I just add a sprinkle of distortion just to make them sound a little more cohesive. The whole drum bass is being sent to this slat back delay. Yeah, it's just like a very quick echo. Makes them just seem more real. Personal preference, personal choices. I have to get this cat off me, man. Oh, what you said. Oh. See you later, pal. That's drums. Bass. For the bass on this, I made the rare decision to use, he's getting in the trash now. No. He likes to forage through garbage like a raccoon. The bass on this song, let's talk about it. It's a very straightforward. I'm using a Nexus patch. Nexus is like, to me, it is an out-of-date synth. I think it's technically a rompler, which has a different meaning. It just takes like pre-recorded things, or I don't know how it works. Anyway, I'm using this very silly sounding fretted bass preset. I considered recording actual bass on this, but I decided against it because I feel like this was it just fit the song better, especially with the weird combination of drums. I did want it to have this kind of silly, whimsical vibe to it that I feel like this cheesy sounding bass preset really conveys. while also, you know, filling out. It serves its purpose as bass. It occupies that range. And I'm not really doing much to it. I'm EQing it like an idiot. It's getting sidechained by the kick, because that's how I always configure my bass to be sidechained. So the kick can come through. So I switch up what the bass is doing from the first chorus to the second chorus. On the first chorus, it is this familiar, it's the same pattern that we hear on the verses.
But despite all your flaws and my slightly selective recall, I still miss you like I knew that I.
For the next chorus, because things are getting hot, they're picking up, they're getting spicy. The bass gets spicy with it. The notes become a little more extended, just to add some suspense, or I don't know what emotion I would call it, but it is listening.
I still see your face now and then, putting me right in my place.
It just has more energy. It's got these like little stutter notes. Which is like just emulating the way I play bass, so like those like muted notes.
Don't let me be misunderstood.
The luxury of programming synth bass is I can do things that I can't do physically. And it's like almost like a slap bass type thing. It's like this octavey walk up that I could only do with a synth bass. I programmed the bass to kind of complement what the guitar is doing. I'll turn the drums off. Yeah, they kind of, you know, dance together. And then they kind of divulge at the end. Yeah, the bass in the song isn't supposed to grab your attention. It just kind of complements the other instruments. That's the way I was thinking about it. So let's move on. Let's get on to the keys, which are, for this song, the star of the show. They are where it's at. One of my favorite elements. I'm using an omnisphere patch for the keys, talking about... Yeah, omnisphere just kills it. I started with this patch called Early Warmies. And Omnisphere gives you a lot of latitude with manipulating their sounds. Fabulous plugin. Very expensive though. I don't think I even played these chords. I drew them here in the piano roll to look like I played them. It's not like I couldn't have played them, but like I usually don't even have a keyboard hooked up to my laptop, so it was quicker for me to just draw out the chords and then make the notes here a little cattywampus to give it that more organic feel, like you're hitting them with your fingers. This is kind of a strum type sensation. Yeah, it's like a hodgepodge of very computery sounds and programming with deliberately human elements thrown in. The tone of this patch really guided a lot of my decisions with this song, because it was one of the first things that I laid down when I was producing this. And I was like, that's dope. Let's roll with that.
Flaws and my slightly selective recall, I still miss you like I knew.
And so I did.
I'll make myself a machine to scrounge up.
Obviously, these keys are panned pretty hard to the left because I want you to hear them distinctly. I don't want them to mix in with everything. I want them to stand out. I think one of my guitars is panned hard to the right, so they're kind of like two halves of a whole. Yeah. Nothing much to it. Let's keep going. This song also has synths in it. Let's talk about those. Check out these squiggly beat bops. What I'm calling squiggly beat bops here. I'm pretty sure this is another Omnisphere patch. No, wait. Couple things. This is These are my saucy wieners. I'm using 3XOC. It is a very, very lightweight native FL synth. It's just 3 oscillators. But I'm doing some crazy effects processing to it. It's being bit crushed and then drenched in reverb where the dry is pretty low and then wet's way up, which creates the illusion of it being like it pulls it back. If a mix has 3 dimensions, adding a lot of reverb with no delay on it to something pushes it back in the mix, which is what I was trying to do here. Yeah, this is another Omnisphere patch. It's one of my favorites. I don't remember how I made it. I'm not here to talk about trying to navigate Omnisphere. It's a synth with the same interface as most synths and the same parameters. But like when I make stuff like this, I really do just kind of attack it with no real objective in mind. I just kind of make a sound. And if I like the sound, then I roll with it. If I don't,
then I don't.
I'm using Microsoft GS wavetable synth, the synth that comes with every copy of Windows. I'm using the orchestral harp preset, which is my favorite preset. When you put reverb on it, it sounds pretty. It's like very crude and old school sounding. Take it off. Yeah, I mean, that's what it really sounds like. I love it. And so that gets a lot of airtime here. If I'm just throwing out like mix tips in general here, you want to balance your stereo imaging, when you're panning stuff, which you should definitely be doing if you're trying to improve your mixing. I neglected to pan, creatively for many, many years. I didn't realize it had any bearing on the clarity of a mix, but it is essential. It's just as important as adjusting volume. And so with that in mind, all the synths and keys I panned to, complement each other to balance out. So the keys are the loudest synth instrument, and they're panned hard to the right. So to compensate for that, the other 2 layers of synths that aren't as loud, they're both panned in the opposite direction, which roughly evens out. If you look at this boy, I mean, it's, they're playing dramatically different things, so it's hard to say they're perfectly balanced, but they're pretty close. That's my fun synth time moment, which is actually just doubling the slide guitar riff I did. Just to make it a little more otherworldly, totally extra. But I've just hit the spot, Here's another Omnisphere patch. Omnisphere's got unbelievably cool sounding vocal stuff. This is like a little choir boy or something. I was very grateful he agreed to feature on my track. Thank you, little choir boy. So for this bridge, this harp thing kind of steps up to the plate, takes the lead. So I double it up. Just another instance of this harp sound, but this duplicated instance has a different reverb applied to it, right? That is less dramatic and pulls it forward a little bit. It's a shorter reverb. I don't know what else to say about it actually, but it is panned in the center with the second instance of the harp panned to the right to kind of just prance around while it all goes down. And we're back to it. And now the whole harp melody gets, doubled up. It's way more flamboyant. It's all fifths and thirds and stuff. It's just way more grand. It's the emotional climax of the song.
Take me at my word. I didn't
the emotional peak of the song, the synths are doing more than ever before. In like the earlier mixes of this song, this harp stuff was like overwhelming and like dominating the instrumentation. I was like, it's too busy. So I tried taking it out, but then I really missed it, so I had to put it back in. And like this is, again, like I learned a lot of mixing stuff making this album, and that's when I started experimenting with reverb and using it to like keep it in there, but just like make it a little more subdued or just like fit right where it needs to. So it still adds to the, you know, the swirling whimsy of this moment without eclipsing the vocals, which I really want to be as clear as they possibly can be.
Take me at my word. I didn't write this to make you hurt.
Sorry about all that distortion. Yeah, so that's synths, of course. That's I'll conclude that this phase pads I was kind of talking about at the same time, actually. I don't know if there's anything I didn't really address. What is this patch that I'm using, though? It's one of two things. Is it? Yeah, okay. It's another Microsoft GS wavetable synth preset. Choir Oz. For me specifically, it is nostalgic. Spending a lot of time on the internet as a little kid in the early 2000s, I feel like it was used more for like Newgrounds music or like MIDI stuff. Websites that played music on the homepage just really harkens back to a simpler time. For this solo, you know, where I'm talking on the phone spiritually.
Blackywood, I know you'll do just great. Venturing forth into the unknown.
Because I am so clever, I added the sound of like a dial tone and then a hang up noise as a metaphor, right? For telephones. It's a little sassy, you know? Just wanted to sass it up. On this verse, I'm like essentially saying, good luck with all your shit. I'll know you'll do great. I just don't want to be a part of it. Click. But then I immediately start talking again.
I still see your face now and then.
Who am I talking to? Am I still talking to her, or am I talking to myself at this point? Jeez, is the whole song me talking to myself or talking to her? Maybe most of the song is me talking to myself, except for this verse where I'm talking to her.
At your own pace.
Food for thought. Let's talk about the guitars. That's pretty much the last thing. The guitars serve a more subdued role for this song compared to a lot of my other songs. Of course, at the intro, there's this twin guitars. Just do this fast picking thing. They mostly just add texture in a lot of these parts. Then it blows up for the choruses. This is where it really goes down. And this was the most complicated thing for me to mix in, actually. Because I wanted distortion on this guitar, but like being inexperienced as I am with distorted guitar that isn't playing a solo, I had trouble mixing it into this light instrumentation. So let's look at what I did to it to make it work. I'm using Guitar Rig, of course. I use Guitar Rig for 90% of my guitar. Like I started with a preset in Guitar Rig called the Bridge, which gave me a satisfactory tone. I really attenuated a lot of the spectrum here. Here's something that might be unconventional but useful sometimes. I wanted to like give the guitar its own room, but then put that entire room somewhere in the mix. And to do that, usually reverb goes at the very end of an effects chain. That's the correct way to do it, like objectively. But when you put it before something dramatic, like compression, or in this case, the stereo shaper plugin, it affects the reverb as well as the original recording. Let's listen to what this is even doing. I won't claim to know exactly how this stereo plugin works, but I just fiddled with it until the guitar was like pulled back enough. I want it to be behind everything, but still present in this mix.
But despite all your flaws,
When you turn off this stereo plugin, this stereo shaper, it sounds like this.
but despite all your flaws and my
fighting the vocals, and I really didn't want it to do that, but I didn't want to just make it super quiet, so I did this.
Despite all your flaws, hey.
You can mess around with this stuff until it sounds good. What you need to do and what I need to do is just start watching some YouTube videos on how to stereo shift stuff intelligently, because sometimes just like fiddling with it works, but like that was an arduous method, but it all worked out. It all worked out in the end. Oh, FL Studio just crashed. Wow. Wait, did it crash? It's still fucking going. I don't know what happened. We're almost done though.
If I could.
There's really only one more thing to talk about, and it's the slide guitar that was directed as well. This was something that I considered miking my amp for, but I ended up not doing it and opted for just putting a ton of effects on it. I'm drenching it in reverb. As you can see, the wet level is very high, so it is soaked, waterlogged with reverb. It's got this very distant, longing feel to it, which is endemic to the themes of the song. There she goes. I'm gonna wrap it up before something else crashes. Hope you learned something, as always. If you have any specific questions about this that I didn't address, or just want to talk about it, man, just hit me up. I'm very easy to get a hold of, and I love talking about this stuff, genuinely. So thanks for watching. Stay crispy.